Hello, I'm Regina Rowland, and I'm introducing you to SDG 8, Decent Work and Economic Growth. The main goal for this SDG is to promote sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. So how can we think about the challenges in this regard? There is an emerging concept called informal employment that is in Europe in particular emerging as a dual labor market where low-wage and temporary workers find it hard to transfer out of inadequate working conditions into the mainstream labor market. That means then contributing properly to the system and also getting the benefits from that system. A traditional challenge is that of gender pay gap. So that's the difference between average earnings of men and women. And we also want to be clear about what we mean by economic growth. So traditionally, we measured the value of goods and services that a country produces. And nowadays, we're also including in that equation the support of productive activities, decent job creation, entrepreneurship, creativity and innovation. Also, happiness is a thing we talk about a lot these days, and it should encourage the formalization and growth of micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, including through access to financial services. What is a model that we can think about in terms of economic growth and how it should or could happen in terms of supported by social transformation? So at this graphic here, we can see that on the left, there are the goals that connect to structural transformation. On the right, the goals for transformation of knowledge and beliefs. With that, we mean with belief that we need to change our worldview, so the way life works on the planet for us, so what we think about, how it should work, and what our role is as humanity on the planet among all the species with which we cohabit the planet. And this graphic here implies that there is a dynamic between the two where the one needs the other. So the left hand needs the right hand, so to speak, to make a full circle and a step in the right direction. And so we can think about the structures that drive behavior, and that without the structures in place, we can't actually change our behavior. And in order to create new structures, we have to think about new ways of doing that. And so it goes hand in hand, and the transformation will probably happen step by step and not all at once, because that's not possible in this way. There are 10 targets in this SDG and 2 measures that the EU recommends, and I invite you to go and really inform yourselves about the details of that so that you can think about your own contributions or that of your company. The report 2020 allows you to then dive into what's going on globally and where we were, the status quo of where we were in 2020. And this wonderful site with the European statistics allows you to compare different countries in Europe on different aspects of this SDG on decent work and economic growth. I invite you to go there and play with that tool. The situation in Austria is that we're moving in the right direction with all the targets except with the unemployment rate. And here we want to pay special attention to unemployment of youth, because they are our future. And if they're not doing well, nobody will be doing well. So they deserve a particular space here as well. The main issues in Austria to solve are to increase the quality of life beyond consumption while conserving resources, to reduce the working hours by 20% per week, while at the same time extending employment biographies. That means that we would consider learning and developing as work and count that as hours of work that we do each week, so that this transformation in our minds and hearts can happen. Because if there's no space to reflect upon your own doing and the consequences of that, then there will be no change. So we need to create that space for that transformation. And then also to increase paid care and community work. Focus is here on relieving the overwhelm that some of the family members have with taking care of the elderly and children, and develop a system that works for everybody and takes care of everybody in the system. When we think about organizations, what could they do to contribute to this SDG? We first want to think about the core purpose of this organization that we have in our minds, and also who the stakeholders are, what the impact is of this SDG upon the organization, what the costs and challenges are that emerge from that impact, and then also, on the other hand, what the opportunities or benefits could arise at the same time. When we have all that in our heads, we can go into detail and think about concrete actions that they could do. Let's look at educational institutions. So in terms of SDG 8, the tasks are to prepare apprentices and students or pupils for understanding the complexity of living systems, because that's the dynamic that we're part of, that we haven't really paid attention to so far. And that's our learning curve, really. For participating in an ever-changing labor market, because that labor market aligns with that dynamic that we're now only beginning to understand, and to equip them with a flexible skill set and mindset that can stretch into the current dynamic and the changing conditions of that. Additionally, of course, educational institutions could serve as a platform for innovations that are needed on the labor market. Concretely, on inward action could be to adjust educational programs to identify the new needs on the labor market in perspective of this SDG 8, support graduates when looking for their first jobs, so trainings, mentorship programs, career development. An outward action could be to consider partnerships with potential employers and other actors on the local labor market for the benefit of graduates, but also to co-develop new policy and to lobby for transparency of working conditions. Municipalities, towns, cities, villages, what could they do? They have a role to play as model employers and a community builder for change. Potential inward action could be to train public service staff on the concept of decent work so that they may not only replicate these ideas inside their institution, but also spread them among the communities and into their environments that they're part of. An outward action could be to co-develop strategies with other municipalities for promoting decent youth employment and women's economic empowerment, or to co-create opportunities with partner municipalities to engage the community in innovating new ways of working. Corporations and organizations of all kinds. They should create jobs for all ages and all abilities. They close any pay gaps and to offer decent work conditions and to contribute to economic growth that is decoupled from resource use. And that's very important, that is decoupled from resource use, because we are living on a finite planet with finite resources. An inward action could be to invest continuously in the development of employees so that they may meet the concurrent challenges in the labor market, or to innovate products and services that contribute to economic growth, but are not taking resources. So here we're talking about developing strategies and processes for the circular economy. A potential outward action could be to manage a sustainable supply chain. That means demanding decent work conditions and sensible use of resources from the suppliers. Or to work closely with educational organizations to adapt to the emerging landscape of work, or to join collaborative efforts to end child and other forced labor around the world. Continuing with the slide deck, you then are invited to think about your own organization or an organization of your choice. And it takes you through the same kind of reflective thinking and to design potential contributions. Then the slide deck continues with reflection questions that allow you to think about what you've learned in this SDG so far and further resources for you to check out before it takes you to the invitation of the SDG journey, where we invite you to observe your own environment under the umbrella of SDG 8 for a week, and to explore your environment for evidence or violation of decent work policies and actions, and also additionally to look for economic growth opportunities that are decoupled from use of resources. Have fun with this. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in another SDG.